Alright, so for anyone who's used to watching my content, you already know that I don't normally cover true crime shows. It's no secret. But this season's trailer for True Detective really piqued my interest, and I kind of wanted to talk about it with you guys. So in the fictional town of Ennis, Alaska, the scientists that operate a research station vanish. To solve the case, Detective Danvers, who I'll mostly refer to as Liz throughout these recaps, and Navarro have to confront the darkness themselves, and dig into the haunted truths that lie buried under the eternal ice. And apparently this is a very creepy season of the series, and you guys know I had to tune in to see for myself. So in the town of Ennis, 150 miles north of the Arctic Circle, on December 17th, they are experiencing their last sunset of the year, which means they are about to experience roughly 2 weeks of darkness. That's how shit works over there. As the episode begins, we see a hunter about to shoot what I believe are elks, I'm pretty sure. But suddenly they seem to be startled by the sunset, I think, and just go leaping off the side of a damn cliff to their deaths. Now, I'm not sure what the hell that was about, but please feel free to clarify in the comments. I don't know if these are just stupid animals, I doubt that's the case, but please provide some clarification in the comments if you know. Then we cut to the Arctic research station known as Solal, where the interesting things start to happen. All these scientists seem to be chilling, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off is just blasting in the background. Then suddenly one of the scientists seems to get possessed or have some sort of shaking fit, some kind of standing seizure or some shit, and then the power cuts off inside the research facility, and then we jump forward to December 20th. So 3 days later, a delivery guy shows up at the research station and finds the place completely deserted, except for the fact that a shadowy figure runs past the hallway in the distance, and he thinks he sees something, very creepy shit. And eventually, while checking the place out, he also comes across a severed tongue on the floor. In the next scene is where we're first introduced to Detective Navarro, where she's seen taking a guy to jail for assaulting his wife at her job, or girlfriend, whatever. Luckily, her co-worker comes to save the day by knocking his ass out cold with a metal bucket. Then we cut again where we get introduced to the Chief of Police, Liz Danvers, played by Jodie Foster. Her and Hank arrive at the research station to further investigate the mysterious disappearances of the scientist. That loud-ass Ferris Bueller score is still blasting in the background again inside the station, where we also get to meet Peter Pryor for the first time, who's one of Liz's deputies. He gives her a briefing on the case and tells her how the supply guy came to drop off supplies and found the place empty. He tells her how these were all different scientists from around the world who were apparently digging through ice in Alaska to research the origin of life. Liz eventually comes across a whiteboard that says "We are all dead," and yeah, that's a little creepy. They also find out that some of the scientists left their cell phones. Then she checks a sandwich that one of them left behind on the counter and decides that they should call in the search and rescue teams, the choppers, and every damn body else. Now Hank thinks that Liz is jumping the gun by asking for all of this because he doesn't think they've been gone missing very long, but the truth is that Hank don't know shit. Liz informs him that the mayo on the sandwich on the counter has gone runny and how that normally doesn't happen until after a couple of days out of the fridge. And she knows this not because she's a nasty bitch, no, not at all, but because her kid has forgotten their lunch in the backseat of her car before. So yeah, this isn't uncharted territory for her. She also points out how the clothes in the washing machine smell pretty bad and how that normally takes a couple of days for them to smell as bad as they do. So it seems like the woman really knows her shit. So she thinks that the men have been gone for at least 48 hours, at least. And then they proceed to examine the random severed tongue on the floor. Liz infers that it's a native woman's tongue because the markings on the tongue come from licking fishing nets. And she knows this because of a previous case she worked on, so the plan is to send it over to the lab to find out whose tongue it is. Meanwhile, we cut over to another new character, Rose, who's seen gutting a wolf right before she begins to hear mysterious ghostly whispers and her radio starts acting all weird. And in this moment, at a distance, she sees a dead-looking pale white man standing barefoot in the snow. And she says, "Hello, Travis," and asked, what does he want? Back at the police station, Navarro waits for Liz and tells her that it must be her tongue, referring to an Inupiat indigenous woman from a case they had 6 years prior whose body was found without her tongue. Navarro is also a native woman and feels that Liz doesn't care to look into this dead woman's file. But after Navarro leaves, Liz decides to request Anne's cold case to take another look. Alright, so during this time, Liz gets a call from her stepdaughter's friend's mom, and Leah is in trouble because apparently she made a sex tape with her 15-year-old friend. So on the way home, Liz chews Leah out for this, and they end up almost getting in a wreck because of some reckless driving asshole. The driver turns out to be a woman named Stacy Childers, and she's apparently the neighborhood alcoholic, and everyone in town seems to be aware of her and her bullshit. The only significance about this moment though is that after Stacy crashed, her window shatters and leaves glass all all across the street. And when Liz walks through it, she has a flashback of walking over glass, like she was also in a car crash at some point in the past. And although that rhyme was unintentional, your boy can still spit some hot fire if he has to. I'm just saying. So anyway, Navarro goes to see Ryan, Annie's brother, to question him about the research station Salal again since her murder. She's trying to see if she missed anything all those years ago when Annie was killed. Annie protested the mines, but her brother Ryan worked at the mines to feed his family, so they seem to argue a lot about that, understandably. Also, Navarro asked Ryan for water, and he says that the water turned bad like 3 days prior, which is something to keep in mind. In this moment, Ryan also asked Navarro if she believes in God, and she says yes because she saw a girl get half of her head blown off in the military, and she was still standing. And if I wasn't a believer already, that would probably do it for me too. During this time, Navarro gets a call about her sister who claims someone is inside of her apartment. But the police who's already on the scene confirms that her windows are shut tight and that her door is bolted shut from the inside. So yeah, basically he's saying that she was tripping. But of course they all look out for each other because that's what policemen do, and the policeman promises Navarro that this stays between them. We find out that this is also an issue that their mother dealt with as well, and she ended up receiving professional care at some point. So either their family just sees ghosts or they all eventually go crazy, or maybe just both, who knows. Back at the police station, Liz and Peter further investigate Salal, and we find out that Anne's case files are being held by Hank. I don't know, I just don't like this guy already, but Hank doesn't think he has them. So later we get to see Peter's family and how he basically tends to put work before them, because he takes a call after getting back home from Liz, who tells him to go to his dad's house to search for Anne's file. And in this moment, his wife is trying to hook him up with some, but the guy turns it down and takes off. So yeah, he has a problem. Alright, so he goes over and lies and says that he's there to get a baby picture to show his son. Also during this time, before Peter arrives, Hank, his dad, is already inside repainting a room in his house for a woman named Alina, who we haven't seen yet. And also, Peter makes it out successfully with the files he throws out the window, and back at Rose's place, Travis is back and leads her out into the snow. Then we cut to Peter dropping off the files at Liz's place. This is where Liz informs him about how Navarro was the first on the scene after Anne's body was found. She tells him how Annie was stabbed 32 times by an unidentified sharp object that left star-shaped wounds, and how she also had a missing tongue. She also tells Peter that Annie was an activist that had a lot of haters. We find out that Navarro was obsessed with the case and wouldn't let it go until eventually she was approached by a woman named Kate McKendrick, who we don't know yet, but she sounds like someone with power. Anyway, Navarro started getting in fights while working on the case, and Hank ended up taking Navarro off the case. And this was before Liz became the chief of police in Ennis. After Liz arrived, Navarro asked her to pick the case back up, and Liz never did, because she feels like the town had Annie killed, and that there would be no point in trying to investigate if everyone was working together to keep it quiet. Next, we cut over to Navarro popping up at her F-buddy's house, Eddie, where she basically manhandles him in the bedroom. I mean, I could just picture her going, "Yeah, you like that, huh? Yeah, that's right. I drank my pre-workout before I came over, fool." I mean, hey, Navarro gives off Butch vibes to me. I can't be the only one who thinks this, but that's only because she's played by the actress Callie Reese, who was a former world champion boxer turned actress, so yeah. She was also really good in the movie Catch the Fair One, so check that out. It was actually pretty good. But anyway, she uses the guy's toothbrush afterwards, which is just foul. I mean, your F-buddy using your toothbrush is just fucking insane. It's still crazy even if you're together, but FWB's doing that is just nuts to me. Anyway, we cut to Liz's place to find out that her and Leah just kind of ended up together due to unfortunate circumstances after her dad died. Later, after Liz goes to bed, she feels a kid's hand on her shoulder and hears the word mommy. Then she says the name Holden and the voice says she's awake. Then suddenly she sits up, but no one's there. And then we see that beside her bed on the floor is a stuffed polar bear that she picks up and holds. And we can also see that it has one eye missing. And this is the exact same thing that the scientist says at the beginning of the episode. She's awake. So we could be talking about a ghost here. During this time on the road, Navarro is speaking to one of Annie's old contacts to try to gather more info. And suddenly the call mysteriously goes out and we hear a voice go, "She's awake," again, right before Navarro has to abruptly stop in the road. And we can see that it's a massive polar bear standing in the middle of the road with a missing left eye, just like the stuffed animal Liz was holding in the previous scene. It seems like maybe Navarro is the only one around to see this, or maybe she's just out so late that everyone is home asleep already, or she was the only one to see it because it wasn't really there. Who knows? Over at Liz's place, she can't sleep, so she begins to study the case files of Annie's murder and the missing scientist. She discovers that one of the coats that the scientist wore in a photo had a smiley face patch on the shoulder sleeve, and in one of the photos, Annie was wearing a coat that had a ripped hole basically in the same spot. And at this point, it kind of looks like one of the scientists may have stolen her coat and covered up the ripped area with the smiley face patch. Then we finally cut back to Rose as she continues to follow barefoot ghostly Travis out into the snow, where he does this remix swag and surf dance to simply point at something in the distance. Now he could have just simply pointed, but I guess he wanted to show off some cool afterlife dances first. Anyway, we jump back to where we see Liz and Navarro back at the Salal research station, and Liz informs her about the missing coat, and they both continue to search for clues. They notice during this time that Raymond Clark is the only guy who's not in any of the photos with the other scientists they saw, and they only find this out because they find one of his photos in one of the rooms in the research area. And we also find out that the jacket isn't there either. In this moment, Navarro proceeds to talk about Annie's case and how someone kicked her dead body after dumping it, which has to be like the highest level of hate, like damn. And then she had broken teeth and ribs, and on top of that, the actual 32 stab wounds that killed her. And then last but not least, you can't forget to mention how they actually cut her tongue out. I mean, the shit is brutal, and it's pretty sad. But during this time, Liz gets a call that Rose found something on the ice, which we know was the thing that dead Travis did his swag dance for and led her to. Liz and Navarro arrive at the scene, and Rose tells her that dead Travis led her there. And she's in her right mind because Navarro is like, but Travis is dead. And Rose is like, yeah, I know. So basically at this point we can understand that it's just a normal thing for Rose to just be seeing ghosts and shit. And the episode ends with them hovering over the frozen dead scientist out in the snow. And I must admit that the show is very creepy and I'm loving it right now. I honestly wasn't sure how deep they were planning on getting into the supernatural stuff, but dead guys walking around dancing seems like they're going all the way, so I'm here for it. So yeah, there seems to be a lot going on right now. Supernatural stuff, native people, scientists. Where do you guys think this is going? Please comment below with your theories. Anyway though, if you guys enjoyed the recap, I'll be back with more so we can solve this murder mystery together this season. But as always, thanks for watching.